Hey!
So you've bought a digital camera. You want to catch all the great moments in life and share those memories with loved ones. And we're going to make that happen. Hi, I'm Graham Sterling, and over the course of this presentation, I'm going to show you how easy it is to use your new digital camera. In less than 1 hour, you'll be taking better photographs and sharing them with your family and friends. It used to be all you needed to do was load up a can of film, take your shots, and then send them off for processing. Sure, you had to wait a little while for results, but you always ended up with a stack of photos to add to the family album. Then came the digital age, and everything changed. No more film, no more processing, and no more prints. Most of those images are stashed away somewhere on a computer, or worse, stuck on memory cards, never to be seen or shared. What's more, most people buy cameras loaded with technology they never learn how to use. That's a shame, because many of the bells and whistles on your camera really can help you take better images. And they're not hard to use, once you understand what they do. This presentation is broken down into two main sections. We'll start off slowly. In the first half, you'll learn what the camera does and how to use those tools to make your images look better. As we get into the second half of the presentation, we'll build on what you have learned and explore more advanced topics, such as white balance. You will also learn how to get those photos back the way you used to, so you can fill your photo albums with great memories. Along the way, we'll let you in on the secrets of taking fantastic photos, and we'll see all the different ways that you can share those images with your friends. We've designed this presentation for you to go at your own pace. Therefore, it's important for you to locate the pause button on your DVD player's remote. If you're watching this on the computer, the player program should have a clickable pause button. Each time we mention a new camera feature, pause the program and find that feature on your camera. Then press play to continue the presentation. The secret to taking great photographs is to be prepared. If you are ready for the situation and have your camera set just how you want it, you have a much better chance of catching the perfect shot. Taking photos is essentially a three-step process. The first step begins at home, before you head off for a shoot. Think about where you're going. Is it a backyard barbecue or a holiday party? Is it an aquarium with brightly lit tanks? The location will help you decide which shooting mode to use. Another question to consider is how will you use these images? The image size you choose could be different depending on whether you plan to email or print your photos. We will show you how to change the image size in just a bit. Step 2. You arrive at the location. Look around at the light. Is it bright or dim? Will your subjects be backlit? The answers to these questions will help you determine whether you need the flash or if you need to take special precautions for backlighting. With step 3, you are ready to take the shot. You look at your camera screen to check the focus. Is the camera focusing on the right subject? Do you need to zoom in? Are you happy with the framing? Why is it important to think ahead? Because if you have your camera ready when the moment presents itself, you will greatly increase your chances of capturing fantastic photos and videos. Your first look at your new camera may have been a little intimidating. After all, there could be up to a dozen different buttons, dials, symbols, and switches on the top and back of the camera. To make things easier, we will begin with a brief lesson on the anatomy of a camera. Of course, the basics are easy. There's the shutter release on top, the lens in the front, and the LCD monitor on the back. Okay, so let's figure out what everything else does. Even if you don't have a camera like this, it's likely to be very similar. Your digital camera may have a dial, like this one, on the top or back. We will call this the shooting mode dial because you will use it to switch between different shooting functions such as auto and movie. On some cameras, you may need the dial to access menu functions as well. If your camera does not have a dial, then it may have buttons or a switch that you can use to move back and forth between record and picture playback. We will go over the shooting function symbols in a few minutes. Now, look at the back of the camera. You will likely find a menu button which will take you into the camera's on-screen menu system. There could also be a display button which will change the amount of information shown on the LCD monitor. Other options you might find include image playback, print transfer, and erase. Does your camera have a two-way toggle like this? Chances are it's the zoom control. Generally, the side that zooms in will be marked either with a magnifying glass or the letter T. The side that zooms out may show a rectangle full of boxes or the letter W. Finally, look for arrow keys on the back of your camera. There may only be two, or your camera could have a four-way controller with an OK or set button in the center. You will need these arrow keys to move around the LCD monitor. Now that we know what we're looking at, let's begin defining the most common symbols you'll see on your camera. As you look at these symbols, it's important to understand why your camera's designers program the functions into buttons or on-screen icons, rather than burying them in a menu system. It's because these functions will do the most to help you take better photographs. Your camera's designers want these important tools to be just a button push away. Let's begin with your immediate needs as a photographer. First, look at this symbol. It is often used to represent auto shooting mode. Some camera makers use a red or green rectangle instead. When you shoot in auto, the camera automatically selects the right settings for the lighting conditions and determines where to focus. All you have to do is frame the shot and press the shutter release. This triangle in a box marks another function you'll use all the time, the image playback. Pressing playback or moving a switch or dial to playback will allow you to look at all the images stored on your camera's memory card. Keep in mind whether the camera is in record or playback may affect how some of the other camera buttons work, such as menu. The next symbol is a lightning bolt. This represents your camera flash. Pressing this button not only turns on the flash, but on many cameras, it also allows you to cycle through different flash modes. We will go over how and when to use the flash modes later in the presentation. Next, let's look at this symbol, the flower. Whether it's called macro focus or close-up, this is the setting to choose when taking close-up shots of small subjects. On many cameras, this setting will allow you to get within a few inches of your subject for truly remarkable photos. Finally, there's erase. This is represented by a small trash can icon. You can only use this button while in playback. So first, you would press playback, then find a photo using the arrow keys and press erase. You may either erase the image or cancel. Make your selection using the arrow keys and then confirm. So far, we have focused on the functions you will use often. This next group includes functions you may never use, but you will see the symbols a lot. The first is the self-timer. Virtually every camera company uses a stopwatch to signify the self-timer. For some people, this function is very useful. But even if you never need the timer, you might accidentally turn it on. So, if your camera is not taking photos normally, check the LCD monitor for the self-timer symbol. It could be what's causing the problem. Some camera designers group the self-timer function with the shutter mode. On this model, for example, the self-timer is an option that comes up when you select shutter mode in the menu system. The main options here are single and continuous shooting. With continuous, the camera will take shot after shot so long as you hold down the shutter release. Some cameras can shoot as fast as 2 shots per second. Use this mode when you're trying to capture your subject in motion. The alternative is single image shooting, represented here with a single rectangle. Lastly, let's look at exposure compensation. Most cameras use a plus-minus icon to represent exposure compensation, which can raise or reduce the brightness in the scene. These are the main symbols you'll see on a typical day of shooting. Through the rest of the presentation, we will show you how to put these functions to work for you. Many amateur photographers never turn the camera off auto. After all, auto does a good job of taking photos in a lot of shooting situations. But the truth is, not every shot is the same. Sometimes you'll want to take a close-up image of flowers or insects. Other times, you may be shooting the waves and sand at the beach. Or say you're trying to capture the moonlight and a distant skyline. No two situations are alike. That's why cameras offer a variety of shooting modes which are specially tailored to specific conditions. These may be listed on the shooting mode dial next to auto, or you may need to look for them in an on-screen menu. Set the shooting mode before you head out to take photos. That way, your camera will be ready to go when you need it. We will begin with portrait mode. Most camera companies use a woman's profile for the portrait icon. Use this mode when taking photos of people or animals that won't move around too much. The camera will set the lens so your subject is clearly in focus, while also softening the look of the background. Another common scene setting is landscapes. The icon for this mode usually looks like a mountain. Here, the camera keeps everything in focus so you can show a large area, such as a park or meadow. Your camera's night mode may be represented by a person under a star, or a star and moon combination. For this setting, the flash is always turned on. On some cameras, the flash will fire immediately when you press the shutter release, but the shutter doesn't snap closed right away. It stays open long enough for the camera to see the background. The result is a photo that shows both your subject and some of the lights or action behind her. Another shooting mode that will likely be very prominent on your camera is movie mode. This is usually represented with a movie camera icon. The basics for taking a video with a modern digital camera are very simple. Once you activate movie mode, all you need to do is hold down the shutter release. That starts the video. Pressing the shutter release again will end recording. For most cameras, the length of time you will be able to shoot depends largely on the amount of space left on the camera's memory card. From here, cameras can get very specialized. Some offer a sports setting with a fast shutter speed. Others have a child setting. Either one will help you catch people in motion and freeze the action. Many cameras also have party or indoor settings, as well as aquarium and fireworks. We encourage you to explore these settings on your camera and even test them out when you have the opportunity. You may be pleasantly surprised by the results. While we are still preparing the camera for a shoot, let's look at image quality and image size. Together, these settings determine how large you can print your photo without it getting grainy or fuzzy. The quality and size settings also determine how much room your images will take up on your camera's memory card. Your choices for image quality will likely be super fine, fine, and either normal or basic. But on some cameras, like this Nikon, the choices are high, normal, and PC screen. These settings are also tied to image size, which we will explain in a few minutes. We will use this photo of a vase to demonstrate image quality. When the camera is set to basic, it reduces the detail in the recorded image. The resulting file is small and it doesn't take up much space on the memory card. If you only use this image on the internet, you won't notice that there's less detail. But if the photo is blown up or printed, the results would look like this. If we set the camera to superfine and take the same photo, the results will look more like this. The camera saves as much detail as possible. This image will take up more room on your memory card, but the quality is better. The image will maintain the sharp lines and edges even when it is blown up. Most cameras are automatically set on fine. It's a good all-around setting that works in almost every situation. If you do not plan to crop your images or enlarge them a great deal, then keep the setting on fine. If you will only use the images for email or the internet, then set the quality on normal. You can also choose the image size or the number of pixels recorded. Remember when you bought the camera, you were probably told about its pixel count, something like 8 megapixels or 10 megapixels. That number tells you how many pixels the camera will record at its largest image size. For example, the largest image an 8 megapixel camera can record will be 3200 by 2400 pixels. The same camera can also record a small image that is just 640 by 480 pixels. Which image size is best for you? That depends on your needs. Choose large if you plan to make big prints of your images. Just remember, the larger image size will use a lot of camera memory and it will take longer to upload the images. Keep the camera set to medium for regular sized prints. Your images won't take up too much room on the memory card and you'll be able to do some editing without losing image quality. We only recommend using small if you want to email your images or put them on a website. Do you have a memory card full of fuzzy images? Well, you're not alone. Focus is a common problem for new digital camera users, and luckily, it's easy to fix. So let's look at what you can do to improve the quality of your photos. It may seem like the autofocus system works like magic. How does a camera know where to focus? Well, your camera detects any distinct edges in the scene. Then it adjusts the lens until the edges are as sharp as possible. So for example, in this photo of a friendly llama, the camera looked at the hard edges of white hair against the darkness of the barn wall and adjusted the lens to sharpen the line between light and dark. This system works pretty well, but sometimes you'll find the camera cannot focus on your subject. There are a few reasons why this could happen. First, your camera may not be able to find any distinct edges, as in this image. There is very little difference between the color and light levels on the sand and in the water. Alternatively, there could be a lot of very strong edges at different distances, like the bars in front of this subject. In both cases, the camera would have trouble achieving focus. You could take the photo anyway, but the results will be very blurry. So you're at a party and want to take some snapshots. How do you focus the camera? The first step is the simplest. You need to listen for the special focusing sound. It might be a click or a beep. Many new camera users don't realize that the camera makes a special sound when it achieves focus. If you don't hear that sound, you won't get the results you wanted. When you press the shutter release halfway down and hold it, you initiate autofocus. The camera searches the scene for an appropriate subject and bases the focus around it. Once the camera finds the subject and focuses, it will sound a special beep. A green focus box or icon may also appear in the LCD monitor. So what do you do when the camera can't focus? In these situations, you will need what's called focus lock. This feature is available on virtually every digital camera. It allows you to set the focus before you frame up the shot. So first, find an object that is roughly the same distance from you as your subject. Hold the shutter release halfway to focus on this object. Now, without letting go of the shutter release, turn back to your subject. Keep holding the shutter release down as you frame up the subject. Once you're happy with the composition, you can finish pressing the shutter release. To find focus lock on your camera, hold the shutter release halfway and point at various objects. If the focus symbol does not change or disappear, then you have found focus lock. Shooting close-up photos of flowers or collectibles may present another problem. In most shooting modes, your camera won't be able to focus at close range. The solution is to switch to macro, which is often represented by a flower. To test how macro works, place an open book or a piece of printed paper on a table. Turn on macro. Now, see how close the camera can get to the page and still focus on the letters. You will find the camera has an easier time focusing on subjects with strong edges. Another problem that could keep your camera from focusing is low light. The camera needs light to be able to find the distinct edges. Many camera companies overcome this problem by mounting a small lamp on the front of the camera. Your camera may fire the flash instead. Either way, the added light will help the camera focus. If your camera isn't focusing in low light, then you may have accidentally turned off this special lighting. You'll want to go into your camera's menu system and turn it back on. It will be called AF Assist, AF Illuminator, or something similar. Finally, let's discuss the problem of camera blur. Some of those out-of-focus shots may actually be blurry, either because the subject moved or the camera did. Camera shake is a particular problem in low light because the camera has to keep the shutter open longer in order to record an image. It can be very hard to hold the camera perfectly still during those long shutter times. The camera may have an icon meant to warn you that your shot will be blurry. In many cases, this icon will look like a shaky hand or a shaky camera. If you see this icon, then think about adding a little light to your subject. Stop and turn on the flash before taking the photo. Or you could turn the camera off auto. Once the camera is in the advanced shooting mode, you should have access to settings that will allow you to boost the camera's sensitivity to light. We will show you how in the advanced section. Let's go back to the party where we were preparing to take photos. Look around to see where the light is coming from. Where are the shadows? When it comes to taking photos outside, most of us were taught to put the sun at our backs and have the subject face into the light. That takes care of backlighting problems, but you may end up with a bunch of photos of squinting people. Instead of thinking about the sun as a problem, think about using it to your advantage. We're going to show you how to compensate for the brightness, get rid of the shadows, and compose some remarkable photos. Your first solution to difficult lighting is to use what's called exposure compensation. This feature is often marked on cameras with a plus/minus symbol in a box. It may also be called EV shift or EV scale. Take a moment to find exposure compensation on your camera. When you are taking a photo of a backlit subject, the camera chooses its setting based on the brightness of the background. Anything in the foreground ends up looking very dark. If you want to see into these shadows, you have to make the camera collect more light than the current setting would allow. So in the case of this backlit group of friends, the photographer uses exposure compensation to bring in more light, making the people look brighter. Exposure compensation may not be available in auto, so you will need to turn the shooting mode dial to another option, such as one of the scene modes. Here's how you would set exposure compensation on most digital cameras. First, frame up your subject and hold the shutter release halfway so the camera can make its normal settings. Now, access exposure compensation and bring up what's called the EV scale on the camera monitor. Moving the scale arrow toward the plus sign will increase exposure compensation and make the scene look brighter. The background is blown out, but you may prefer this to having a dark subject. Experiment with this setting to see how much you need to increase the exposure to get the look you want. Exposure compensation can also be a useful tool when your subject is brighter than the background. In these cases, the camera may choose settings meant to brighten the background. Unfortunately, that would make your subject too bright. The solution is to tone things down with exposure compensation. You may lose the background to darkness, but you will be able to see the subject. Exposure compensation is one of the camera's most useful tools. Be sure to practice this setting because it will come in handy quite often. There's one more thing you can do to counteract backlighting. Just add light to the subject with your flash. The flash function is usually represented by a lightning bolt. Most cameras offer several choices for the flash. Setting the flash mode to auto means the camera will only fire the flash when needed. You may also be able to set the flash to fire with every shot or turn it off completely. Take a moment to find the flash button or icon on your camera. Most people only think of using the flash when they are shooting indoors under low light. But if you turn on the flash when shooting outside, you can get rid of the shadows on a backlit subject. Also, think about using the flash when your subject is lit from the side. The flash will fill in the shadows. Another flash option your camera may offer is red eye reduction. The icon for this setting usually looks like an eye. The phenomena of red eyes in photographs is one of the most annoying side effects of using the flash. It's also the easiest to fix. Many cameras include red eye reduction as one of the selectable flash modes. But for some cameras, you may need to go into the menu system to find it. When red eye reduction is turned on, the camera will fire a pre-flash that cuts down on the red eye problem. As photographers, our goal is to convey our personal outlook and view of the world in the form of photographs. Good photographic composition can help you express your visual ideas. Following the guidelines of composition won't guarantee award-winning photos, but I can promise you this, your shooting will improve. I'm not asking you to memorize the rules and follow them by rote. Good photographers sometimes break the rules, but they know why and they do it for a reason. You probably have a friend or relative who always seems to have a stack of vacation or holiday snapshots. In every batch, there may be 1 or 2 interesting shots, but the rest are pretty boring. Most people simply don't know how to make their photos interesting. They don't know how to arrange their subjects and backgrounds in an appealing way. That's what we're going to discuss now. The principles of good composition can be learned. As you look at a potential shot, move the camera around to find the best image. Don't forget to zoom with your feet. Moving a short distance can sometimes make all the difference. Here's a concept that will help you find the best arrangement of elements. It's called the rule of thirds, and it's been used by artists for hundreds of years. Divide the horizontal plane and the vertical plane into thirds. The intersections of these lines are the best places to locate important subjects. If you have a subject with prominent lines or edges, such as a building or a seascape, place them along the rule of thirds lines. A few words about horizons. Never allow the horizon to cross the image plane exactly in the middle. If you want to feature a subject that lies above the horizon, such as a beautiful sunset, place the horizon lower than the center line. If your main area of interest is below the horizon, arrange the shot so that the horizon is higher than the center line. Teach yourself to visualize the thirds when you're looking at photographs and artwork. You'll notice that professional photographers use this concept all the time. You'll see the rule of thirds in television commercials, movies, and documentaries. A problem with so many snapshots is that the people are so tiny you can hardly tell who they are. The photographers tried to cram a lot of information about people and location into one photograph. It doesn't work. The solution is to get specific with your framing. Fill up the viewfinder with the important stuff, the people, and enough of the surrounding details to identify the location. Then take additional photos to explore the place, the view, the architecture, the food. A photograph, like a painting or a drawing, is a two-dimensional object. The big issue facing photographers is this: how do you depict the three-dimensional world on two-dimensional paper? How do you avoid a flat look to your photos? There are things that you can do to help the viewer see the third dimension. Rule number 1. You must understand the technical aspects of focusing your camera. Focus is the most important component of making a good photograph. The sharp edges and clarity of the focused subject engage the eye of the viewer. A few more tips that add depth. If possible, take advantage of overlapping objects. Overlaps show that one object is in front of another object in space. Use this trick to give your photographs the feeling of space and depth in the real world. Elements of perspective can be used to enhance the third dimension. Things like a line of telephone poles going away from you, or a row of arches in a building, or a road winding off into the distance. Buildings can be a great source of perspective clues. Look at what happens with walls and roof lines as they rise up and away from you. These are all indications that the scene has space and depth. We've talked about a number of things that you can do to improve your photographs through composition. We've talked about the rule of thirds, which will help you place your subject in the photographic plane. We talked about sharp and soft focus and discussed ways to create depth and space. We've only begun to touch on the subject of photographic composition. If you'd like to find out more, complete books on the subject are available. Use these guidelines and you'll be thinking about photographs in a new way. The party is over. It's time to go home and move all those wonderful photos onto your computer so you can share them with your friends. This is where the system breaks down for a lot of people. They never move the photos off their memory cards. They just leave the photos there, never printing them for anyone or using them for anything. Transferring your photos to the computer can be very simple. All you need is the cord that came with your camera. Any digital camera you buy will come with a software program that allows you to download images into your computer. So, to begin, connect the small end of the cord to your camera. You will most likely find the port on the side or back of the camera behind a protective cover. Now, plug the large end of the cord into one of your USB ports. Make sure the camera is on and set to playback mode. The computer should recognize the camera and bring up a dialog box within a few moments. If you loaded the software that came with the camera, then plugging in the camera and turning it on should activate the software. Just follow along with the instructions. Once the images are on your computer, don't just let them sit there. Thanks to the internet and printing technology, there are hundreds of different ways that you can enjoy and share your images. Your favorite photo processor likely has a website that will help you to organize your images and order prints from home. Many also let you share the entire photo albums over the internet and order gifts personalized with your images. Every website is different, of course, but here's a general idea of how to navigate these sites. When you get to the website, look for a photo or picture tab you can click on. You may need to sign up for the service before you can upload photos to the website. The site will then walk you through the process of uploading images from your computer or your camera. Once your images are stored on the site, you may have options for organizing and editing the photos. So, if your images need to be trimmed, you can use the crop tool, or you can fix red eyes and brighten up dark images. Next, look for online album tools. These will allow you to create a photo album and then send a link to your friends so they can see your photos too. You can also order prints from this site and then pick them up at the store. Best of all, you can use the uploaded images to create memorable gifts, like this handsome shirt. You'll also find the same services in the store where you bought this DVD. Take your camera's memory card to the store and use the photo kiosk. Most of these kiosks offer editing services, such as cropping and colorizing. You can also burn a CD to store your images. Someone will be there to help you if you need it, and you'll get the results in just about an hour. We have already seen how you can improve your photos just by using the camera's most basic functions. In this section, we'll go a step further and try out some of the camera's more advanced functions. You may need to go into the camera's menu system to access some of these tools. Take a moment now to get acquainted with the menu. First, make sure the camera is set to the shooting mode and then press the menu button. If there is more than one menu page, then use your arrow keys to move between the pages and look at how they are organized. Usually, the menu of functions you may need while shooting is marked with a camera icon. The camera setup menu may have a tool icon. Now, set the camera on playback mode and press menu again. The camera may bring up a different set of menu options. Pressing menu will take you out of the menu system when you're done. If your camera has a display or info button, then try the same experiment. Take a look at what display brings up when it is set to the shooting mode. On most cameras, pressing display while in the shooting mode will bring up the current camera settings. If you press display while in the playback mode, most cameras will show you how the camera was set when the photo was taken. You may need to press display once or twice to return to the default screen. As you practice with your camera, you may find there are some shots you just can't get, even with the special scene modes. That's why many cameras offer advanced shooting modes that allow you to adjust the settings for yourself. We will explain how to use the easiest of these advanced modes. On most cameras, it's called Program, but a few camera companies label this mode Manual. Think of Program as Auto with options. Just as in Auto, the camera will make the settings needed for a well-lit, focused photo. But you also have the option of changing settings such as white balance, ISO, and metering. In essence, you can override the normal camera settings, allowing you to get shots that otherwise may not have been possible. White balance refers to how the camera sets the colors in each photo, with the goal of making white objects actually look white. You have probably seen photos that turned out blue, or looked a little purple, or even red. The photos look this way because the white balance was set wrong. To understand light a little better, think about how sunlight looks throughout the day. In the morning, the rising sun gives everything a pinkish tone. Then at noon, the daylight appears white to us. As sunset approaches, we have what's called the golden hour, and finally, a red sunset. There are other hues as well. Clouds and shade add a blue cast to daylight, while incandescent light has a red-orange hue. When the camera is set to auto white balance, it compensates for the current light hues in order to make the photo look as though it was taken in white sunlight. So in a shady scene, the camera would shift all the colors toward red. The red color shift counteracts the natural blue hues in the light and makes this photo look like it was taken in natural sunlight, not in the shade. The best way to understand white balance is to test out the different settings yourself. Turn the camera to an advanced shooting mode, such as Program, in order to access white balance. From here, you'll either press a button to bring up white balance or go into an on-screen menu. Now, go outside on a bright day and pick a subject to photograph. Frame your subject, then bring up the white balance settings options. See how the scene looks in auto. Now, change the setting to daylight and look at the image again. Continue changing the settings, noting how the scene looks in each white balance setting. You may notice that some settings give the scene a strange color cast. Take the tungsten setting, for example. Tungsten is made up of red and orange light. It contains very little blue. The camera is programmed to compensate for the red-orange hues by shifting all the colors in the scene toward blue. But since you're taking this photo in daylight, the light in your scene already includes blue. Add the blue shift to the blue light that's present, and what you get is a photo that is very blue. You can take advantage of this color shift when shooting photos of the setting sun. If you're shooting in auto white balance, the camera will shift everything toward blue to compensate for the yellow-orange light. Instead, try taking a sunset photo with the white balance set to cloudy. Since this setting is usually meant to counteract bluish light on cloudy days, the camera will shift everything toward red. The result will enhance the golden hues at sunset. Remember buying rolls of film at the camera store? You always had to choose what kind of film speed you wanted. Would it be 100 or maybe 400? The term used for film speed is ISO. The designers of all digital cameras decided to use this term to describe the sensitivity of the camera's digital sensor. When faced with a dark scene, the camera can artificially amplify the signal in order to get a clearer image. In essence, the camera makes the image sensor more sensitive to light. The advantage is you can take photos in lower light without a flash. But there is a disadvantage too. Many of you have tried taking home videos in low light situations. While you can see the image, the overall quality is not very good. That's because the camera had to enhance the sensor in order to get a usable image. Unfortunately, this adds a kind of digital noise that makes everything look grainy. ISO will be marked with its initials. Virtually every camera requires you to go into an on-screen menu to change the ISO. Most often, you'll want the camera to select the ISO for you. But in certain circumstances, you'll want to turn to an advanced shooting mode and set the ISO yourself. Your choices may range from 80 all the way up to 1600. You'll want to set the ISO low if you are shooting outside on a sunny day. So for this photo, you might choose 80. If you are shooting inside or taking sports shots, then choose a mid-range ISO, such as 200. Why? Well, boosting the sensor allows the camera to set a faster shutter speed. And a faster shutter speed, especially when people are moving fast, will help you keep the photos from turning out blurry. For photos taken at night, especially in a poorly lit room, you might select a high ISO up to 400. An ISO of 400 or above will add a significant amount of noise to your image. That might be okay if getting the shot is more important to you than having a clean image. So when would you want to take the ISO off of auto and set it yourself? One reason would be when you want to take photos in poor lighting but don't want to use the flash. Increase the ISO until you get a clear image and then take the photo. Metering refers to how the camera measures the available light before making the settings for your photo. When you hold down the shutter release, most cameras automatically look at the levels of light across a scene and use that information to make the settings. That's great when you have even distributions of bright lights, midtones, and shadows, but it can be a problem when you have a shadowy subject highlighted by the sun. To correct backlighting, you will need a function called spot metering. This is a variation of the camera's main metering function. Not every digital camera model allows you to change the metering mode. If your camera has this option, it's important to understand how to use it. The default metering symbol looks like this with a rectangle, a circle, and a center dot. Spot metering has just a dot in a rectangle or the dot by itself. Take a moment to find the metering options on your camera. If you switch to spot metering, you force the camera to measure a very small area in the center of the scene and base its settings on that. Since this area is darker than the background, you'll end up with a lighter, brighter subject. But you say you don't want to have the subject in the center of the screen. No problem. Remember how we locked the focus and reframed our shot earlier? When we did that, the camera did more than lock the focus. It also locked in the settings that determine the levels of light in your photo. What we will do now is be more selective about that light and how the camera measures it. With spot metering turned on, hold the shutter release halfway to focus and meter on your subject. Now keep holding the shutter halfway. Frame up your shot and then finish depressing the shutter release. The result will be a photo that shows your subject with correct lighting and an overexposed background. Keep in mind, you may need to turn the camera off auto in order to change the metering setting. When you have finished using your camera for the day, take a moment to prepare for the next shoot. There's nothing worse than trying to catch a great moment with your camera only to find that the battery is dead or the memory card is full. To check the battery life, look for this symbol on your camera monitor. On some cameras, this icon will flash when the battery is low. If the batteries are dead or dying, replace them with fresh ones. You may want to pack a spare set of batteries with the camera just in case. Your camera also keeps track of how much room is left on your memory card. If you see that the shots remaining counter is low, consider deleting some or all of the images on your card. By planning ahead, you'll reduce frustrations and make photography a truly enjoyable hobby. Before we wrap things up, a word about accessories. There are some key pieces of equipment that could make photography easier for you. Now, we're not talking about big lenses and filters. We mean the small, practical items, such as a camera bag. This padded case will protect your camera from the bumps and shakes of everyday shooting. It can also hold extra batteries, the cord, a spare memory card, and your camera manual. Another option to consider is a small tabletop tripod or a monopod. Either will offer the stability you need for close-up shots and low-light situations. Also consider buying a set of rechargeable spare batteries. That way you can be sure you always have a fresh pair of batteries on hand. One final option will help you save battery power. It's a memory card reader that allows you to plug the card directly into any computer. This will allow you to transfer your photos to the computer without using up the camera battery. Over the course of our presentation, we have shown you how to take better photos and how to make sure they get seen and shared. Now, we encourage you to go out and practice. Take lots of photos, every chance you get. Also, take the time to experiment with your camera so you can truly understand all the settings we've discussed. One way to do this is to set up your camera on a tripod or table, arrange a still life, and take a series of photographs in each setting. This will allow you to see firsthand how all the options will affect your images. Well, that's it. We hope the information and tips we provided will help you take the best photos possible. Some of the topics we covered may not seem important yet, but use your camera for a while. The scenarios we discussed will come up. As you become more comfortable with the camera, you'll find yourself taking better photos than you ever imagined. You'll also use and share those images more often and in more creative ways. Thanks for watching. Now go out and take some great photos.